Global warming, what we can do, coming up on Carpe Diem. Hello, and welcome to Carpe Diem. My name is Ferraro. Today we'll be discussing global warming with two Montclair State University Earth and Environmental Study professors. Before we do, let's take a look at a short video to see how the world around us is changing in ways we may not realize. The world around us is always changing. Bigger buildings are being built and better technology is being created. But do we ever think to look around us and see the side effects of our bigger is better mentality? We live in a world of 7 billion people. Everyone's trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible without taking a second to look at the world around them. A world that is slowly heating up. Global warming is the heating of the earth due to carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases being released into the atmosphere. These gases prevent heat from the sun to be released back into space, ultimately raising the surface temperature. Industries, transportation, and electricity generation are pumping out 37 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere each year. Are we as a population causing this global warming to happen faster than it naturally would have? As you can see, this is a very real epidemic. Global warming is not something that we should be taking lightly. I'm joined now by Montclair State University Earth and Environmental Studies professors Sandra Passchier and Matthew Gorring. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for having
Thank you
us.
very much.
So, global warming. We talked a little bit about it in the video. Sandra, could you go in a little more depth about what global warming is?
Global warming is the steady rising of the Earth's temperatures, both on land and in the oceans. So the temperatures are not rising rapidly, but a lot of energy is added to the atmospheric and ocean systems, and that has effects on the weather systems and their effect on humans as well.
So
Yes.
global warming is like affecting the weather as well as environments around us, as well as ecosystems and such?
Sure. For example, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia and other reefs in the oceans are actually being affected by the seawater becoming warmer. And so, yeah, ecosystems are being affected. There's a lot of biodiversity there are, animals and other plants that are actually disappearing.
Oh, wow. So this is something that's happened before, the cooling and heating of the Earth. The Earth is like a breathing thing, like it cools and heats. Why is it that we're so concerned about it this time around?
Right now, the rate at which the oceans and the atmosphere are heating is a lot larger than in the past. And the other aspect is that now we have humans living on places along the coast where they're affected by sea level rise. So one of the effects of the heating is also that our polar ice caps are melting, and the melting of land ice and polar ice caps is going to increase sea level rise and the rate at which sea level is rising. And because of large populations of humans now along the coastal areas of the Earth, we run into problems with that. The other effects are, for example, on agriculture, where we're using large proportions of the land. We need water to irrigate our crops to produce enough food for human populations. And if the weather systems are affected by global warming, we may get droughts in certain areas where we produce some of these crops. So there are multiple effects of the warming that were not seen in the past because humans were not populating large parts of the Earth.
Okay. And along with water, in terms of agricultural use, there's just literally drinking water issues. There are many places, particularly in Southeast Asia, where the glaciers in the Himalaya mountains are actually shrinking, and a lot of that water, they get water from that directly. And if those glaciers disappear, then you're going to have a lot more competition for fresh, clean water.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are talking about melting glaciers. What are some effects of these melting glaciers?
One of the primary ones is sea level rise along the coasts. So sea level is rising at the moment about 3 millimeters per year, which doesn't seem like a lot, but over time it can add up, and also the rate at which it is rising is accelerating. So by the end of the century, we might see between 6 feet, maybe around 6 feet of sea level rise, which will affect the living environments of our grandchildren, right? That are then maybe living on the coast or not. And so that is a very important effect. And even though we're not realizing it as much right now, every storm that comes along and creates a storm surge, that surge is going to come up above this level of the sea that's already there. So each storm that comes along will have a larger impact in the future because of sea level rise.
And we had a good example of that during Hurricane Sandy in 2012, where a storm like that, even with a 1 foot increase in sea level, that's 1 foot on top of what would have been a lesser storm impact. So those impacts are going to become greater and greater as the sea level starts to creep up.
Mm-hmm. So being that this has happened before, what about natural forces? What natural forces are contributing to this change?
Well, there's a lot of different factors. Any process that produces CO2 or methane can increase the global temperatures. Of course, volcanic eruptions can do that. That's a primary example. However, those processes take millions of years to change, or at least hundreds of thousands of years. And so the changes that we're seeing right now are not due to increased volcanic activity. It's just not possible geologically.
And then what about habitat change? Habitat for animals living in these regions? If you'd like to answer.
Yeah, well, as sea level rises, there's going to be certain habitats that, I mean, obviously things will shift, but some habitats will be destroyed and others will be created. But there will be, well, I'm not a biologist, but but you know, we do see some extinctions going on now that are an impact of ecosystems, but so yeah,
and also ocean warming and the migration of pools of warm water will increase certain species and areas along the New Jersey coast that were not there before. For example, one of our colleagues is studying sea nettles and other creatures that are now seen in front of the coast of New Jersey that were not there before. So there will be changes in what types of animals can live in certain areas because the areas are warming with respect to the past.
Yeah, and that goes the same with weather and climate. As Sandra had pointed out, some places will become drier, other places will become wetter. And even some places may get colder and wetter, and other places will get warmer and drier. So there's going to be a shift in those sort of longer-term climatic conditions of any particular area.
Interesting. Well, could global warming be something a lot of people may not be informed about, if informed at all? We took that question to Montclair State University's campus to see how many students are really actually aware of the changes happening around them.
Honestly, I don't know too much about all of the information with the weather changing.
No, I do not believe that we're properly informed.
Not at all.
Yeah, I feel like we hear about it, but we don't actually hear like the mass.
The details.
Yeah.
I really don't think I'm informed enough at all. I think that I can definitely know more about what's going on, and I'd really like to.
Yeah, I mean, it's February 24th, and it's like, what, 70 degrees outside?
Yeah.
That's not normal.
I guess so, yeah, because it doesn't snow as much.
Well, yeah, definitely. I'm standing on a 73-degree day in February.
Probably not.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it would, but it probably does.
I mean, it seems like it doesn't, but it probably could somewhere. Just for 3 degrees.
That'll just
3
keep
degrees.
escalating.
Well, I didn't know it was that bad.
It's a little more concerning.
I think there's some like companies that try to make change, but there's not enough.
I feel like there's some people out there that's definitely doing their job and trying to make things, you know, trying to make people more informed. But in a way, I feel like there should be more people.
As a total nation, I don't think as a whole they're making strides.
Having practices that are better for the environment, I think that is a growing thing among companies, but I don't think enough of them are doing it, and I don't think enough of them are talking about it.
Well, I'm not doing anything yet, but I feel like I could, you know, share more things on social media, since social media is so powerful nowadays. And, you know, whenever I see an article about global warming, share it and try to, you know, inform more people.
Probably like recycle more, maybe try and use solar energy.
Buy a hybrid?
As you can see, there are a lot of people who don't know enough about this problem. According to the students, there has been little effort to really talk about climate change on a global level. So guys, being experts in this field, what are some things, Matthew, if you could explain, what are some things that people can start doing to bring more awareness to this issue?
Yeah, I think awareness is a problem. I think people are aware of global warming. As you saw in the interviews with the students, they want to know the more details about it. And I think that's the key I think most people in the country know that this is a problem, but they might not necessarily understand all the details. So I think education is always, to be informed about what it is and what the impacts are going to be in your particular region, like this area around New York City, then people will have a little bit more invested purpose to do things. I think that's really the key.
Of course. And in the video we talked about, very briefly, we talked about this small temperature change. Sandra, what are some of the drastic effects that a very small temperature change could have?
A small temperature change globally could translate in a larger temperature change at the poles, and this is an effect that's been known for some time. So the poles are warming faster than the rest of the Earth. So, for example, the Arctic sea ice is shrinking in areal extent. This also has ecological effects on populations of polar bears that are living there, but also other organisms that rely on the sea ice. And a small temperature change is already having an effect on these regions. And the same is true for Antarctica, the other side on the South Pole as well, where we have land ice that is hanging into the water there and floating and is melting from below due to the rising ocean temperatures and also the higher atmospheric temperatures that we are already seeing there. So even though we see maybe half a degree of warming around here, we see triple the effect at the poles, and that's affecting the ice that's there and then also the ecosystems that rely on the ice.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the other issue is that when you ask somebody, oh, 3 degrees, it doesn't sound like a lot because we have a daily variation of 20 degrees.
I mean, on that day, it's in the middle of winter. It was 74 degrees.
You know, a global rise of 3 degrees Fahrenheit, or let's say 1 degree Celsius, that's a gigantic rise in temperature in terms of the global average. So that I think the general public doesn't really understand that 3 degrees is a tremendous global rise. Yeah.
It would mean that, for example, what is now a certain number of 90-degree days per summer will become a larger number of 90-degree days. And there are all kinds of thresholds that are in effect when something becomes warmer. So certain parts of the ecosystems might be well below 90 degrees, but once it tips above that, they're struggling and they're experiencing more stress, and that makes them vulnerable to collapse. So even small changes might bring certain systems above a threshold for them to experience stress.
Now, something you guys talked about, or you brought up before, was how in the past human influence wasn't here. Humans weren't here to really study what was going on. So a huge question today is this a natural process that's just happening, or do humans actually have a huge influence in what's going on right now?
Well, humans have a large influence, and one of the best evidence is just to look around you and see where do we get our energy. And a lot of our energy comes from coal mining, from natural gas, and those are hydrocarbon resources, so meaning that if you burn them to get energy, you're adding carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And those greenhouse gases trap heat into the atmosphere. And it's a process that's been known for a long time, and that's very well established. So just putting those two things together, as knowing how much carbon we burn and where that is going, it explains a large part of the warming that we see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not hard to calculate what the temperature rise would be, and it matches basically what we've observed since 1850. And so, yeah.
So next we're going to hear from climate change activist Ryler Taylor as he teaches his friend Bob what he could do to keep the Earth clean.
Our planet is pretty beautiful, isn't it? Tall trees, vast oceans, singing birds. The beauty of Earth can be seen in something even as small as a droplet of rain.
But for how long will this beauty last? How long can we enjoy the pleasure of listening to the rainfall?
The sad fact is that the planet is dying, and without human intervention, we will feel the effects of climate change within our lifetime. This news may come as a shock to many of you, and that's understandable considering the general lack of knowledge on this life-threatening issue. But hope is not lost. There are many things that you can do to help the planet, and by extension help humanity. And I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, I'm just one person. Can I really have an effect? Or, I'm not an environmentalist, I don't have time. But the truth is, doing many small things has a far greater impact than people might think. Let me show you. Take a look at Bob here, just doing dishes, right? It's actually not that simple. He's using water, and a lot of it. The average person in America uses between 140 to 170 gallons a day. 300 million people in America times 150, that's a lot of water. If Bob can maximize the efficiency in the way he does his dishes, he could save himself upwards of 5 gallons of water a day. Hey Bob, did you know there's a way that you can do your dishes that would save you time and conserve water?
No, I didn't know that, but if it helps save the earth, I'm willing to give it a shot.
That's the spirit. Instead of turning the water on and leaving it on, you fill up a bowl of water with some soap, hot water, you put it to the side, you soap up your dishes, and then you rinse them all at the end.
You're right. That really didn't take that long.
What did I tell you? And the earth is better for it. I'm here with Bob on his way to work, but I don't think he took the right way. Hey Bob, shouldn't we be on the highway?
I just love the scenery on this route.
This may seem innocent enough, but for every minute that Bob uses his car, he's expelling massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Using your vehicle efficiently can be one of the most helpful things as an individual that you can do for the environment. So skip the scenic route, take the most efficient route, or better yet, carpool, take public transportation, ride a bike, walk, use your vehicle as little as possible.
Hey Bob, where are you off to?
I'm walking to work.
No car today?
I never realized how good walking made me feel.
And because of you, Bob, the earth feels good too.
Bob,
What did I do this time?
it's what you didn't do. Electricity is the result of burning fossil fuels. The more electricity you use, the more fossil fuels you burn. Something simple as turning off a light switch can have a large impact. And if you want to take it a step further, unplug your appliances.
If only everyone could be like Bob. And there you have it. Helping the environment doesn't require dramatic change. The smallest of efforts can have a profound impact. And to help out in other ways, support local business, recycle when possible, and compost. If we support our world will support us.
Thank you, Riley, for helping bring awareness to Bob and for teaching him different ways to go about his daily life in a more environmentally friendly way. So, Matthew, what are some, we went over a few things that we could do. What are some more things we could do to live a more cleaner lifestyle?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is we all use electricity. So there are some power companies that actually get their electricity not from burning fossil fuels, but from wind power and solar power. So you can actually purchase electricity from these power companies that are using greener sources of energy to produce the electricity.
Okay.
And so that would be a choice that somebody could make in terms of where they get their power from.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another example would be turn down the thermostat at home and put on a sweater. For example, we're now, our office building, the sales building next door, is a LEED certified building, and the temperature in our office is about 68 degrees, which seems cold maybe to some people, but it conserves a lot of energy, and we just put on a sweater and we're comfortable. So I think those small changes, if they all add up, if we make very different small changes and everybody does their part, it will add up to a significant impact.
Okay, and that's things that we can do. What about big businesses that have a lot more push, a lot more influence, a lot more money? What would they be able to do to maybe push for a cleaner earth, to push for the awareness for people to follow in their suit?
Mm-hmm. Well, as Sandra had suggested, that our building is a LEED certified, and that would be one way for a business to follow that, would be to become, have the architects design their building or retrofit the building to satisfy those LEED requirements, which are essentially energy saving, air conditioning and heating systems. Mm-hmm. And that would be one way individual large businesses could actually contribute.
And also businesses could invent products that are affordable to larger parts of the population. For example, like solar tiles on the roofs of houses. You know, people would purchase those if they are affordable and are aesthetically, you know, pleasing. So products that do not cost a fortune, that lots of people want, that can produce electricity or power, and that replaces the fossil fuel power that we use, those would be very good contributions that companies could make.
Okay. We have like really big innovators for this movement, Elon Musk being one of them. Something he does, he obviously created Tesla, he creates these electronic engines. What he's been doing is giving these plans away to other car companies for free. How do you feel about what he's doing, his push towards this cleaner earth, and other innovators?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, he's really at the forefront. I mean, he's making electric cars desirable, and he's pushing the technology to the point where the cost is starting to come down. Mm-hmm. And then the battery technology that he's using is actually another way that if we have batteries that can store energy and then to be reused later, for example, solar power, right? When you have your solar panels, the electricity can be stored in batteries and then for later use. So I think, you know, innovators like Elon Musk are really helping the cause to a great extent.
Something else that he's doing is, along with the solar panels, the big, bulky, ugly solar panels on people's houses, what he's doing is actually making shingles. You feel like that'd be a little more desirable, a little more aesthetically pleasing?
Exactly. So those are the kinds of innovations that are going to make the shift in how people use and get electricity, and those are going to make a big contribution. The products need to become affordable, though, for large numbers of people. But you see the prices come down, as you said. So I think in the near future we will see that shift change.
Well, thank you so much for coming out, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
me. And that's
me.
all the time we have for today. Thank you again so much to my guests, Sandra Passchier and Matthew Gorring, for joining us and informing everyone just a little bit more about how to keep our Earth thriving. For more information on this or any other episode of Carpe Diem, please write to us at the email address on your screen, carpediem@mail.montclair.edu, or call us at 973-655-5158. Until next time, I'm Shane Ferraro. Thank you for watching.